And Lonnie Donnie, quite wretched with you on today. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Hopefully, you're having a great Sunday morning so far. And if not, guess what, guys? You still got time to change it. You still got time to turn it around. I'm on my way to church. You already know what it is. And I just want to hop on and say hello. Of course, we'll be going live here in about another hour, live from church for our Sunday morning service. So we wanted to tap in to the service on this morning. Tomorrow will be a Monday show. So make sure you tune into the Retro Philosophy Show. It'll be live from the studio talking about inspiration. What inspires you? Who inspires you? Why it and they inspire you? So on and so forth. We talked about a few things once before. We're going to kind of reiterate the principle, the philosophy behind it, and that is simply this. There's a distinct difference between being inspired and motivated. Uh, so we'll kind of touch that up a little bit on tomorrow as well. Talk about the difference between the two and the importance of knowing the difference. But other than that, though, man, we just want you guys to make sure you tap in both in an hour when we go live from Grace Ministries for Sunday show, Virtual Philosophy Show. Hey, it's been a couple of months, a whole lot literally right now in my life anyway. And I want to take the time to say this. Thank you to all those who have patience. Because sometimes people want stuff right now, right away. And then there are others that get it. They understand, they have patience. There's no rush, no fuss, no fuss. And I just want to take time to say thank you to those of you who are patient, even if you haven't been patient with me. But if you're just a person that exercises patience, the Bible says we have need of patience. And usually it seems like the people who are patient and kind and, are the ones that don't get thanked. They're the ones who, don't even really get appreciated. They're taken for granted a lot of times because they're always there. No one's there for them, but they're always there for everybody. And sometimes those are the very people who, I'm not going to say they necessarily get overlooked, but they don't get the thank yous that they deserve, not nearly enough. And so I want to intentionally, purposefully take time out of my day this morning to tell you, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Patience goes a long way, even in the sense of how it affects the person who you are having patience with. Let me just put it like this. I don't know if you've ever dealt with someone who, gosh, traffic. Boy, I tell you, 77 don't miss. You hear what I'm telling you? Between Statesville and Mooresville, and they will back up at an accident at the other direction. I mean, no debris, nothing in this lane or on this side of the highway. It'd be way over there. And this whole, everything just will back up. Anyway, let me get back to my point. Y'all, please forgive me. I can't stand traffic. But I don't know if you've ever dealt with someone who had an addiction or someone who was just, kind of stuck in a situation. See, just because you get it and you got it, don't mean they do. And sometimes we forget how long it took us to learn that lesson that we now know. And so we sometimes become very impatient with people who keep tripping and falling over the same situation. You're like, girl, you still with that man? He ain't no good. Well, how long was you with your no good, low down, waste of the skin baby daddy before you realized it was okay? Let me stop. Yeah, you get the point that I'm making. Now that you finally woke up and smelt the coffee, look at this. State police got these people on the side of the road. They're not obstructing traffic or anything. And traffic comes to a stop just to be noticed. I just can't get it to save my life. Just keep moving. You can look while you move. So some of us, it takes us a long time to finally get a lesson. Not just learn the lesson, but get the lesson. Because many of people learned from the lesson, but they still didn't get it. They go back to the same situation over and over and over again. Somebody was just talking to me very recently about an individual who um, is getting out of jail, and their only concern is not to go back to their old neighborhood. They want a halfway house that's no way near their neighborhood. Ladies and gentlemen, that's somebody that gets it. They've learned their lesson and now they get it. Because most repeat offenders repeat because they fall back into their same surroundings. And so, yes, I learned my lesson, but but you still ain't getting it. Same environment every single time. But check this out. That person that finally gets it, I promise you, there was somebody that was patient with them. See, I know what it feels like when everybody gives up on you. I know that feeling all too well. When everybody turns their back on you. You may not know what that feels like, but I do. Oh, I know what it feels like. I'll never forget it. I will never forget that feeling, that experience. And when you know what that feels like, you'll be willing to be patient with somebody, even though you disapprove of what it is that they're doing, even though you don't agree with what they're doing, even though you don't like it, even though you know it's detrimental to them and possibly even to you, possibly. But bruh, I know what it feels like to be left alone, backs turned. And I don't want another man, woman, boy, or girl to have to feel that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's why every time I go live, what do? I big up God and I big up Lottie Dottie. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. What's up, everybody, including Lottie Dottie? Because Lottie Dottie is a fictitious individual, but ever so real. She represents those who have been mistreated, overlooked, forgotten about, lied to, lied on, and quite frankly, society has turned their back on Lottie Dottie because Lottie Dottie now seemingly has nothing to offer. But let me tell you, that is never truly the case. Everybody, when I say everybody, I mean everybody, has something to offer. Everybody has something to offer. And so when we are patient with people, we give them time and space, not only to get it right, but to mess up and then get it right. I'm not even about to go into the amount of times I failed before I got it right, and then got it right and failed again. Patience is a virtue, ladies and gentlemen. So be patient with that waitress, that waiter. I was at a restaurant very recently, my wife and I, and there was a young lady who was waiting on us. And you could tell she done been to somebody's church. You know, this little girl got church all over, you know. And but nevertheless, she was very, I'm not gonna say timid, but she was very soft spoken, well mannered, uh, seemingly easygoing, so on and so forth. And a part of our order was messed up, and I brought it to her attention. She said, "You're right, it is messed up. It was supposed to blah blah blah," you know. So she brings it back, and she comes back in tears. She said she went to explain it. They jumped on her, not physically, but verbally. And and the little girl, she said, "I got to get myself together," and she left. She was in tears, man, and it hurt my heart, you know. And but the deal is, we've got to have patience. Now, I didn't make a big fuss about the bill being wrong, about the item being messed up. I just brought it to her attention. And then when she brought it back to whoever, They had no patience. It was their fault, first of all, because they sent me out something that was just wrong and didn't even have the decency to say, well, let them know that we no longer have this and we're out of that. Because that was the case. They were out of something. And so, and now had they said that when she brought it out, they didn't even tell the waitress. They just tried to, I guess, figured I wouldn't realize that what I was paying for, I wasn't getting. And so they had no patience with the young lady and they pushed off their problem on her. And it about almost broke her. So when she finally comes back to the table, I began to tell her, I said, don't ever let them get you like that again. I said, it doesn't reflect your character, it reflects their character. And I began to encourage this young girl, and she was very appreciative and thankful. Uh, but the point is, we got to have patience. Since I'm talking about waitresses and waiters and restaurants, and today is Sunday, and a lot of y'all church folk gonna leave church to go to the Burger Doodle, and you're gonna want supreme service. You ain't gonna leave a tip, and you're gonna get a waitress a hard time. These napkins are not folded properly. If you don't sit yourself down somewhere, have some patience. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing is immediate. So just show a little patience on today. I guess is all I'm trying to say. Because the person that you give the patience to, it could make them. A lot of people are at a make it or break it point in life. And the Bible says that grievous words stir up anger, but a soft answer turneth away wrath. So I'm talking to you, but I'm speaking to us all, myself included. Another situation comes to mind about an individual who says, "Oh, I'm about this life," and this is, and it wasn't even weeks later till they was abandoning the very thing that they said that they was all about. And then they went on to tell somebody else they couldn't build it or they couldn't grow it. So they had to shift, they had to move on. Now you moved on because you was trying to find something immediate. You moved on because you didn't want to do the work that was necessary to build what you had. So you tried to attach yourself to something that was already established and great. But the Bible says, despise not small beginnings. Sometimes you got to have patience and work the area that God has given you. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I'm preaching better than you praising right now. So be patient. The race isn't given to the swift nor the battle to the strong. Another scripture picks up the same sentiment, if you will, and it goes on to say, but but to he that endureth unto the end. Come on, somebody. So you got to be patient and you've got to be willing to endure even unto the end. And with just simply using the word endure lets you know there's going to be some unpleasant truths, if there be such a word, that you're going to have to go through. You got to endure, not enjoy, but endure. You got to deal with it. You got to thug it out and be patient in the process because the process is priceless. So often folks want to skip the process because they don't want to, you know. Let me tell you this story in my close. A good Baptist preacher never sits down without telling a story. I'm not a Baptist preacher. I'm an apostolic preacher, but I'm going to borrow from my Baptist brothers on this morning. Is that okay? There was this young boy. Come on, dude. Get into, yo, are you serious? And I'm talking about patience, right? That's just annoying stuff. Oh, y'all pray for me. Hey, watch out now. Young boy was walking down the road and he sees a little egg. So he picks up the egg and notices that there's a crack down the middle of the egg. So he begins to chip away at the eggshell and reveals the head of a little baby bird. Full of excitement, he continues to peel off the rest of the eggshell, revealing a baby bird complete in his hand. And he loves on this little bird and he feeds the little bird and he's proud and he shows everybody his little baby bird. Finally, the bird grows feathers and starts to grow. One thing the little boy noticed about this bird, it never learned to fly. Now the boy is somewhat depressed because his little bitty bird can't take flight. So he's sitting down with his countenance sad, and one of the town elders comes and sits down beside him and begins to inquire about his sadness. The little boy begins to tell him the story about his bird. And the elder sits there patiently listening to the young man. With tears in the little boy's eyes, the elder begins to explain to him the importance of a. He begins to let the young boy, when he began to put away the shell of the egg, he robbed the little bird of the process of strengthening its wings. As the bird pushes away the shell and breaks out of the egg, he develops muscles that will later be necessary for flight. But because he never went through that process, he never awakened and developed those muscles necessary for flight that will take place later. The moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, is you've got to be patient and endure the process. Don't let nobody and don't let nothing cause you to skip a process that will be necessary for flight later on in life. Yeah, you might not be flying right now, but I promise you, what you're going through right now is working a far more exceeding weight of glory in your life. Trust the process. Somebody put in the comment section, hashtag trust the process. It's a new hashtag week, all right? Trust the process. I'm at a place, I told you I got a lot of stuff going on right now, a whole lot, and more stuff popping up. But I trust the process. And I will not let this situation bleed over into the other situation because they're not the same. I trust the process. I have arrived, ladies and gentlemen, to Upper Praise Ministries, where we have our worship service every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And we would like to invite you to come and worship with us any Sunday at 11 a.m. We also gather for midweek Bible study on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. You're more than welcome to come and join us for Bible study as well. The ladies right now are getting ready for the food giveaway every Sunday morning. I should say afternoon. It starts at 12. They begin uh, the giveaway process. And so we are a thriving little ministry here in Mooresville, North Carolina. Um, God is blessing us in more ways than one, but we have trusted the process. It didn't happen overnight. It did not happen overnight, ladies and gentlemen. Nor is God through doing what he said he would do. So we want to thank you for joining us on this morning for our little talk as we make our way down, as we made our way down the road. Join us for morning worship. If you can't make it here in person, make sure you join us online. Um, we are on Facebook as well as YouTube, Upper Praise Ministries of Mooresville. And yeah, that's it, man. I'm out. I got to get in here and make sure everything is as it should be. We'll be starting service in 45 minutes. And I think that's all I got to say. Remember, be patient, show love. Um, and I'll say this, I'll end on this. I shared this with a brother years ago, and I didn't realize how much it resonated in his soul. It wasn't until later that he shared it with me, how it blessed him. And it was simply this: every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. I don't care where you are in life. Trust the process and watch God be God. It's your boy Retro, man. We out here. We talk to y'all real soon.